Let me tell you something. If you'd asked me 10 years ago what retirement looked like, I'd have told you quiet mornings, wide open sky, maybe a little black coffee on the porch, not a legal brief in sight. But then again, I never figured on running headlong into someone like Karen Whitfield, yeah? That Karen, if you've ever tangled with an HOA president who thinks she's Judge Judy, the sheriff, and the Queen of England all rolled into one, well, grab a seat. Because this is the day I turn the tables and the echoes are still bouncing around our county courthouse. I swear, the moment I walked into that courtroom, you could feel the static. Everybody whispering, shuffling papers, trying not to stare too obvious, but you know how it is in a small town. Half the folks had probably already picked a side. Across the aisle there, she sat Karen in her signature power suit, arms folded, that smug little smile on her lips, like she'd already won the whole darn rodeo. She was busy whispering to her lawyer, a kid so fresh, he probably still used his mom's Netflix password, acting like I was just a stubborn old fool about to get bulldozed by the almighty Willowbrook Estates HOA. Judge Morrison called the court to order, voice like steel, and asked if I had a lawyer. I stood up slow, straightened my tie, and just said, "Your Honor, I'll be representing myself today." And you could see Karen's lawyer, Bradley Cooper, no joke, same name as the actor, but with half the charisma, let out a chuckle like he'd just drawn the world's easiest hand. Man, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But the moment I introduced myself, for the record, Thomas Mitchell, retired attorney, 35 years of property law, member of the bar since '87, well, you could have heard a pin drop. Bradley's little grin evaporated and Karen just about swallowed her tongue. Let me back up a sec. I didn't buy that ranch for trouble, not by a long shot. After decades wrangling with big city developers and slippery corporate types, I wanted peace. The ranch out on Cedar Ridge was supposed to be my getaway, 100 acres, no neighbors for miles, just me, the horses, and every once in a while the grandkids running wild on weekends. That land belonged to the Hendersons before me, 3 generations, and Jim Henderson was clear as daylight when I bought it. No HOA, no covenants, nothing but wide open Texas freedom. Willowbrook Estates. That's 2 miles away with a sliver of county land and my property between them. First year I didn't hear a peep. Sunrises, fence mending, no one telling me my barn door needed to be Tuscan red. It was perfect until Karen got herself elected HOA president. I'll never forget the first time she rolled up. Crisp October morning, I'm out with a hammer patching up the north fence and this white Lexus pulls up to the gate. Out steps Karen, probably late 50s, hair highlighted within an inch of its life, clipboard in hand, sunglasses you could see your own reflection in. "Excuse me," she hollers like she's hailing a taxi instead of talking to a rancher minding his own business. "I need to talk to you about community trail access." Now, I grew up in places where you don't talk to strangers through a locked gate, but I was polite. I set down my hammer, kept the gate between us, and asked if I could help her. "I'm Karen Whitfield, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA. She said it like she expected trumpets. "We're implementing a community trail system, and we need to establish an easement through your property to connect to the county trails." I swear I almost laughed. I told her, "Ma'am, this here is private property, not part of your HOA. She forced a smile, eyes going hard, and started talking about the greater good and how holdouts can't block progress. Right then I knew she wasn't going to take no for an answer, so I gave it to her anyway. "No, not interested. Have a good day." She huffed off, slammed her Lexus door so hard the cows looked up. That was the warning shot, and I should have taken cover, but you know how these stories go. Over the next 6 months, she turned persistence into a full-contact sport. Letters on fancy HOA letterhead, demanding I show up at meetings I had nothing to do with, bogus county complaints about my illegal structures, all nonsense every bit. I spent more afternoons than I care to count, showing county inspectors around guys who'd leave, shaking their heads, muttering about that lady from Willowbrook. She even started bringing little crowds to the edge of my land, walking tours, they called them. It felt more like a zoo exhibit with me as the main attraction. But the real twist came one April afternoon, pulled up to my back gate and saw the padlock hanging cut clean through. Tire tracks snaked into my property, and someone had hammered bright orange trail markers into my pine trees like they were Hansel and Gretel blazing a path. I ripped every one of them out, spent the rest of the day installing new cameras, and that night got the proof I needed. There she was caught on video, bolt cutters in hand. Two other board members beside her sneaking around at 2 a.m. planting flags like they'd just discovered the new world. Well, next morning I had a crew out to weld a new steel gate into place, concrete posts the size of oil drums. I sent Karen and her board a cease and desist letter, formal, legal, the whole deal. And that's when she decided to kick things into lawsuit territory. Friday afternoon, a process server handed me a stack of papers. Karen and the HOA were suing me for malicious obstruction, interference with established easements, and my personal favorite, creating a public nuisance. They wanted $50,000 in damages plus legal fees, and for me to bulldoze my new gate like it never happened. I read that complaint twice, debated whether to laugh or pour a double bourbon, and then decided, heck, if Karen wanted to fight, I'd give her the legal equivalent of a rodeo. I filed my own counterclaims, trespassing, harassment, defamation. Dusted off my bar license, because why pay someone else to have all the fun? Fast forward to the courtroom showdown. Karen comes in flanked by her lawyer, two board members, and some woman taking notes for their little HOA newsletter like they were walking the red carpet. Judge Morrison, no nonsense, sharp as a tack. Gray hair glasses perched on her nose, took her seat, gave me a nod when she recognized the name. I'd been in her courtroom plenty back before I retired. Karen's lawyer, Bradley, jumped up, did his best. Matlock impression, big gestures, dramatic pauses, spinning this tale of the selfish hermit blocking families from nature, holding the community hostage. He actually used those words, I kid you not. When it was my turn, I didn't bother with the drama, just laid it out, deed from 1952, official survey from when I bought the ranch, affidavits from previous owners, 60 years worth of no easement, no access, not now, not ever. I stacked each piece on the table, slow as you please. You could see the hope drain from Bradley's face, one document at a time. But I wasn't done. Pulled out a folder with stills from the security footage Karen and friends caught red-handed on my property at 2 a.m, bolt cutters gleaming. Then I laid out 17 harassing letters, 9 records of false complaints, and wait for it, a flash drive with an audio recording. Karen on tape telling another board member, I don't care if he owns it. I'll make his life hell until he gives in. You could have heard a pin drop. Karen gasped, went 3 shades of purple, started sputtering about community benefit and private conversations. But I reminded the court recorded on my property, single-party consent state, all legal. Judge Morrison was done playing. She asked Karen's lawyer if he had any evidence, any document at all showing an easement. Poor Bradley started flipping papers, sweating bullets, mumbling about still reviewing records. The judge just cut him off. So that's a no, she asked. Then she looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, do you wish to proceed with your counterclaims? You bet I did. Damages for trespass, legal fees, restraining order, the whole works. Karen jumped up hollering, you can't do this. I'm the HOA president, like the judge was supposed to clap and hand her a trophy. Judge Morrison's gavel came down so hard the courtroom shook. Miss Whitfield, you will remain seated and silent, or I will hold you in contempt. That was the sound of the air coming out of Karen's hot air balloon right there. From that point, it was a slow-motion train wreck. Judge tore apart every one of their claims, dismissed them all with prejudice, granted everything I asked for, slapped Karen with $15,000 in damages. Another $5,000 for my fees, could have asked for more, but I figured it was time for mercy and handed down a permanent restraining order. 500 feet, no exceptions. Then, for good measure, she looked Karen right in the eye and said, your behavior has been appalling. You've abused your position, harassed a law-abiding property owner, and wasted this court's time. She even told Bradley publicly on the record to brush up on the state bar's ethics rules before filing another lawsuit. Ouch. But here's the twist. Not only did the judge forward the case to the district attorney for potential criminal charges, she sent a copy of the ruling to the entire Willowbrook HOA board, suggesting they reconsider their leadership. By the time I got to the lobby, you could see the board members cornering Karen, voices rising, talking about votes of no confidence in emergency meetings. Bradley Cooper all but ran for the exit. 3 days later, a certified letter Karen Whitfield removed banned for life from ever running anything HOA related. The DA pressed charges. Karen ended up with probation. 500 hours of community service, couldn't so much as walk through a neighborhood with a picket fence. Best part. 6 months later, I got invited to give a talk at the state law school topic, When Karens Attack a Case Study in HOA Overreach. Whole thing went viral in legal circles. Karen became a punchline, a warning, not a legacy. Word trickled back that she'd sold her house at a loss, moved 3 states away. Wound up answering phones at a real estate office, her dreams of HOA stardom sunk by a restraining order and a little Texas common sense. The HOA sent me a fruit basket and a formal apology. I donated every penny of my legal win to a foundation that helps folks fight back against abusive HOAs. They even named their new conference room after Karen the Whitfield Warning Room. Poetic, huh? So next time somebody in a shiny SUV tells you what you can and can't do with your own land, remember all it takes is a good deed, a little backbone, and maybe a security camera or two. Tell me, do you think justice was really served here, or is there a better way to keep folks like Karen in check? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your stories if you've ever tangled with an HOA, or just hit that subscribe for more real-life courtroom rodeos. Justice isn't always quiet, but sometimes it's pretty darn sweet.